I do too, so look years.
Must be a gator.
I just did.
Morning, it's 10 o'clock and we have one participant.
All right,
Then
thank you. Let's call this meeting to order. First order of business is the minute of our last month's meeting. Had a chance to review them. And does anybody have any corrections? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to accept the minute. Second. All in favor? Thank you. All right. The purpose of today's meeting is a continuation of last month where we were discussing unconventional residential structures and building methods here in Sept Valley. We came to no conclusions last month. Hopefully, our committee has had a chance to review everything in our documents and had an opportunity to decide whether we are covered, whether we need something additional in our ordinances or a new ordinance. Does anybody have any comments?
Well, I'd like to make a comment that the county and all the municipalities are going through this same process. Because some of the municipalities had little or no building codes and some had some antiquated ones. So the county has contracted with a professional organization for a mighty sum of money to look at all the ordinances of the county and their building codes and so forth and come up with their recommendations for new ones. At which point I asked the county commissioner if he would be glad to share the recommendations so we wouldn't have to hire a company, and he said he would. In addition, the city manager from the city of Clayton was present at the meeting and Dan was present also, and she agreed to share their paperwork for their short-term rentals. So I know that's another meeting, but we've got their paperwork, including business licensing and so forth, and all their ordinance, which we'll be taking a look at another day, which I'm sure Dan is going to talk about.
Sure.
So that is all I have to say about that. Oh, and I did ask a question for the county to ask about solar panels. Because I know that is going to be coming up. So we wanted to know what their thoughts were as far as solar panels on houses and so forth. So that's going to be part of their recommendation back to us also.
Thank you. And by the way, some other municipalities within the county included, are actually, while they figure all these things out, have declared moratoriums on building communities. So, so far we haven't had to go that route, and I don't think we do. But we kind of want to get ahead of whatever might come up, and that's the whole purpose of this meeting.
Question, Howard, did they have any idea as to when they might be able to accomplish?
Oh, when the report would come in, no, they didn't. I didn't ask that question, but I probably could have. But remember, this is bureaucracy, and you know it moves at snail pace. You know, we all know that. But yeah, I will ask. Good question, though. Maybe we need to define non-traditional housing, since we have people here that were not at our original meeting.
Where are we going?
Yep.
And hopefully all of you got to see it online. The whole point of this is that not everything is sticks and bricks and mortar and what have you, as far as construction goes. People are turning almost anything and everything into residential housing, whether that be shipping containers, boats, airplanes, yurts, you name it. And probably things that we will never think of here until somebody else does and brings it up. So that's what we're trying to get ahead of, because I think we need to protect everybody here in Sky Valley from potential reductions in your own values because of what might go up next door. So that, that's what we're trying to correct. We did determine last month, the review of our documents, our ordinances, that we have specific materials that are approved for roofing. Canvas is not one of them, so I think that might let out yurts. The same is true for exterior sidewalls, as far as what can be done there. But when it comes to other items that might be brought in and used as housing, we aren't covered on that yet. So that's what we're looking at.
And square footage requirements that we have as well, which reduce the possibility of small.
Tiny house.
Your tiny houses is where our building code requires 1,750 square feet on the main level. So I think tiny houses are pretty well out there. As our mobile home, we have specific area designated on 246 across from Winding Ridge. There's a small area over there platted for mobile home. That is it. The rest of Sky Valley is exempt from mobile home.
Why,
Yes, sir.
why would we even want mobile homes there?
I don't know why we would want them there, but that's been in our ordinance.
That's.
Our
it's
zoning.
been zoned.
Zoning.
Yeah.
I know at least probably close to 20 years that piece has been zoned.
It's been zoned that way for
Its original zoning, at least to 2005, almost 20 years ago. That piece is zoned, I'm
And
not
where
sure.
is it exactly, Jason?
It's on 246, it's kind of in between it's in the proximity of where City Hall is, our building, the state line.
And this is gonna be hard for anybody there to see. Those of you who have good eyes might see this. This road, this white stripe here is 246. Winding Ridge comes up off 246 into this community here. This little green spot right here across from Winding Ridge is the mobile home community.
Is that that's very close to where the old bridge is.
Yes,
Is that the part of there?
I honestly don't know. I honestly don't know how big that parcel is.
Okay.
That we probably need to find out.
I don't think that's even planned in the lots, you know. I think that's one.
It's one more home, it's a single one.
It's not.
But did somebody tell you that there weren't any trailers over there?
It was vacant right now.
So why wouldn't we just rezone it if we had a trailer? Simple,
Jason,
Well, rezoning is not all that simple.
well, it's all there, it makes sense. But we
Somebody owns that parcel, yeah.
got a lot of trouble. You gotta let somebody wants to put one mobile home down there, 20 acres.
Again, I don't know how big that parcel is.
Get one. I don't need it, but I guess
well,
what.
You know, it's not exactly level ground in there. So it's-
There's a long way between zoning and building.
Sure.
You know, I mean, you gotta be platted, you gotta have your land use and that sort of thing.
Mhm, mhm.
we probably need to, we will investigate that. And
We can investigate that further, but meanwhile, that's not what we're here to address today.
You need to get you copies of some of the big developers deed restrictions, et cetera, that cover all the things we talked about so far. I can get them to you, that might help you know what you're not putting in it.
That'd be fine. We'll take all the
Take
information.
whatever
we
we
get.
can get, sure, sure, thank you.
Just as a matter of principle, 246 is it's a tough highway to drive for some people, and I'm not sure that it's a good idea to have development there that would be having people slow down and turn in and have people pull out with slow mobile homes,
Well, mobile homes, we're not talking motor homes now, we're talking mobile homes, which are on a permanent foundation.
right,
So it's not like they're gonna be turning in and out of there.
well, people who live there will.
Yeah, but if you rezone it in single family, people will stay, if they develop it, they will still be turning in and out of there. So you're not changing anything in that respect.
You're reducing density.
And when we're doing things, I represent a company that's building beautiful high-end condominiums using containers, shipping containers. And they're multi-story and they're selling for between $250,000 and $500,000.
Well, and that's what we're here to discuss. Do we really want to preclude that? I don't know. I'm open to all suggestions. I don't think we want to allow things like, airplane fuselages and boats, somebody bring an old tugboat in here and try and turn it into a home. And I have seen that happen. I myself stayed in a caboose up in New Hampshire. And, how they got it up in the mountains, I'm not sure, but there it was.
Yeah.
So, things can be brought in with enough ingenuity. That being said, David brought up shipping containers. There's a place down near Buckhead that's got two side-by-side homes built out of shipping containers, and each one is 6 containers. So size-wise, it would fit into our scheme of things here. Is that something we want to preclude?
What do you all think?
I think something that we want to investigate and see, I mean. It's almost pejorative to say a shipping container home, it sounds like, like a hobo camp. But it sounds like.
No, these are These are buildings where they already have the furnishings and the walls and partitions and like I said, they have elevators going up into the floors and.
You can tell it should be.
It's the stuff, you might know there are things you might not think about, so you need to keep the door open for new materials.
Which is
Like
why
new roofing materials where you don't have a sunroof. It's just the layer of roof and
Now, in our ordinances, our roof ratios are, aren't they, isn't that included in our ordinances, Bob? About our roofs?
What we can have for roofs.
What we can have for
We can
roofs?
have for roofs.
Yeah,
They're just. To follow up on David's theme, that there are established rules in both cities and associations.
Mhm.
Here in North Carolina. I've owned property in Windsor, very good, not overly intrusive, but some
protected.
protective.
Yeah.
Rules within that association. And I think that, if you got a stack of those and went through them and picked out what you thought, would be, would fly in this community, that would be a good starting point, because you don't need to reinvent the wheel. This has
No,
been
you're
done
right.
in multiple locations,
Which is
both government and private.
Yeah.
And, Sweetgrass and Lawyer Rock have done it. Lawyer Rock's done it. And, they've established that and restrictions on them.
and I'm a great follower of copying other people's work.
Well, that's what Holly was alluding to earlier regarding rental ordinances. We're not gonna reinvent the wheel. We don't have to. So, to answer your question, Holly, our building code specifies 6 types of roof coverings are permitted. Asphalt shingles, metal shingles in gray, brown, green. All in matte finish.
And we
Slate
do
or
allow
slate
flat
pipe.
roofs too, right? Flat roofs
Well,
out
it
there.
doesn't specify whether it's pitched or flat. Slate or slate type roofs, wood shingles, wood shakes, and metal roof panels of gray, brown, green, again, matte finish. And I think we've probably blown through that part of it when we had one, copper roof, gold
We
roof,
have
whatever.
two, we have two.
Two now. So, maybe our ordinance there needs to be tweaked a little bit to allow what we've already approved.
Yeah.
So, Again, that's what is approved. In the code now.
Mr. Weinberg, would you mind sending a list of possible places that have some ordinances that we could look
I
at?
would, and certainly, architectural guidelines in two of the properties that I've owned, are very, very specific. Very detailed, been
Okay.
revised, and I think they would be a good starting point for this kind of building. In terms of the exterior aesthetics, those kind of things.
Right.
Now, they don't go into as much detail in code because they rely on county generally, or the city code, for some of the basics in terms of, and then of course, environmental health and.
Yeah.
aesthetic things
Sure.
like
Yeah,
that.
and.
But yeah, I'll send it, if you want me to send it to Jason. who-
That would be great. that'd be great.
A couple of those, have a degree, particularly the one in Sweetgrass and Laurel, it's probably over the top from our perspective. It's very specific in terms of the type of mountain home you can
And
build.
we probably have some more commonalities with those.
Oh, I think you will.
Resorts, yeah.
And I would think, and I don't know that I could get, but just Jason, if you were to get the architectural review standards for Helleniers, and that's in Watauga County. It's a golf course community, almost identical to this community.
That is in dog hound ears.
Hellenier,
Okay.
and I belong to that club for a
Okay.
couple of years, and they really are strict and very, very nice. Older community, similar age to this, 75, doesn't have retail, just like this golf course. And it's the usual country club thing. It's Helleniers Country Club, but you want to look at the association for their architectural review. And I think the two that I can get you, if you can get that one, you'll have as much material as you'd ever need,
Okay.
because you'll have to pare it down a little bit.
You can pull them up online.
Yeah, like Wingate, you pull up online. It's just Wingate at Dillard. And you'll get the association. You don't have to be a member to get the, is anybody driven in Wingate?
No, I
Haven't?
haven't. I have never.
Oh, you gotta go in there. It's like us, except the minimum lot, 3 acres. I mean, so they're pretty high end,
Right.
$1 million homes, but they really pay attention to their architectural guidelines. And it's right down the road.
Great suggestions.
Is our homeowners association, are they precluded from having these kinds of ordinances?
It's not a homeowners, it's a property.
The property
owners.
owners association.
So they have no teeth.
Okay.
And no, they don't
Is that
have,
what you were
they don't
asking?
even have any guidelines as far as that goes.
No.
It really has nothing to do with
Oh, yeah.
property ordinances or anything like that. It's
The advantage though, that just to, be quiet, but the advantage that homeowner associations have in Florida and here and in North Carolina, and familiar with those, is the law, the way it's written, if you have an initial, what they call declaration, that establish the owner, that have these architectural guidelines, they are fully enforceable, and the declaration can only be changed with a 2/3 vote of the homeowners. Not the vote, but of the total homeowner
Right.
group. And so it's a lot easier for a homeowner association to change or regulate than it will be a city.
the difference there, of course, being if you bought into it knowing what those regulations were.
You
They
do,
weren't
and
forced on you later.
but those regulations change from time to time. And what I've seen them do, when I've got a condo in Florida, we have a 90-day minimum limit. In North Carolina, they had a 30-day minimum limit that the developer couldn't sell, so he went to a 7-day, then a 3-day. So he could get investors to buy, basically run the community, the developer, because everybody. just
Turned
bought
it into a
it.
hotel.
So now they have to reverse it, I think 2/3 reverse. But nonetheless, the point I'm making is it's very easy when you see some of the documents I can give you for them to change their architectural guidelines. They just take it to the board, it goes out to the membership for a vote, and it's done. And it's a little tougher here, but I think you'll get good insight.
That'd be great.
protects the community.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have anything?
I want to talk about the VRBO situation.
We're gonna get to that. so-
That's what I figured, so I didn't want to.
Yeah, we're gonna touch on it. We're not
I guess
gonna do
I-
it.
These things, and kind of need regulations before we start, because the RVOs we put in, and it's before the regular, so if we're gonna do these buildings and that y'all are talking about now, I guess we need, kind of like NIL. They put it in and they didn't think about it, and then I had to go back, so if you're gonna allow some of these buildings, then we need to get on the regulations before.
Well, which is exactly why we're talking.
Yeah.
Jim?
I'd like to give you an update on the hog wire situation. Good news and bad news.
You're talking about using in a deck,
And using it as a
okay,
deck in lieu of wooden slats or aluminum, black slats or nice cables. The condo is up above the fresh compactor. Have reinstalled, they've worked on their decks, which is a good thing. But they've used the hog wire. And as Bob indicated last meeting, it's not cheap stuff, but it just looks bad. The good news is that you can just pull your car into a parking space and you're real close to the deck and the stair rails going up, so you can get a good look at it. And it's 2 or 3 steps out of your car if you want to grab it in your hand and shake it and see how substantial it is, because it is substantial. I think they're putting it in because it could be installed with less labor, which gives a significant saving. I object to it because I think it looks agricultural and I think it looks cheap, even if it's not cheap. It's no babies are ever gonna get their heads through it, but so it's a good product in a functional sense. But I just, and maybe it's just me, but that's why I'm glad you guys are deciding this. It's just
Well,
like.
I'm quite frankly just surprised that the condominium association doesn't have rules against it.
Well, I think condominium association is struggling financially, and they have some other problems coming up they're trying to address, like their members need to re-enroll after so many years. So I think they're trying to show they're doing something, but I don't think the hog wire is going to appeal to the kind of people that we would like coming into our community and buying homes. So I think it's misguided, and I think we ought to protect ourselves from it. Just like, the corrugated metal. And again, that's something that has been incorporated in some $1 million homes that we've built recently. And we ought to have a hearing and, see what other people think, see what the builders and developers think of these things. And the third thing I would throw out for consideration are concrete block walls. When you have a big expanse of exposed concrete block wall, I think that just looks out of place in a community like Sky Valley. And if you go to like the 15th tee, where you're shooting over the creek, just above the falls, this big house on the hill with, the long, the big long supports to hold the deck up, and a vast expanse of concrete block. And that's, I thought that's been an eyesore for years, and it's something that if we're addressing these kinds of issues now, this would be the time to do it. And it would simply require that, you stucco, or that you put up some stone facing, some brick facing, or just something so that if it's exposed, that, people don't see it. If it's in a place where nobody's gonna see it, that's a perfect place for variance.
the hog wire fencing on the decks, was that with timeshare?
Yes,
Property?
these are the 2 condo associations. The second one is Cypress Point. I don't remember the name of the first one. But it's just above the compactor, just keep going around the curve and compact.
Jason,
And they start.
the question is, does timeshare, any kind of building, it has to be in accordance with city ordinances? Okay.
Yes, it would.
Okay,
And is it wire or is it livestock panel?
It's
It's
a lattice that's about, blocks like this. And they call it hot wire, and I could see a zoos using this on a cheetah enclosure or something, because
How do you know that's not what they're housing?
we were ordinance.
you can just take a look at it, see what you think.
Don't think you should lock me up.
We've already called her.
Good
All right.
suggestions, thank you. Yeah.
Anyone else have anything? Panel?
If it's wire, wouldn't it fall under the fence ordinance?
Try to hear what order.
If it's wire, if it's truly this hot wire, isn't it restricted under the fence ordinance, Bob?
No,
No? Okay.
not that I know of. I mean, you'd have to. It depends on your opinion, but it,
You know, a lot, you can fly, which is a mesh that's 1/8 wide.
the only
You know,
thing,
solid panel.
yeah,
See, it's wire. I mean, chain link fence.
it's as a wire, it's very stiff. And the nice thing about it is that it is less than 4 inches. And it does stop a young child from putting their head in it. Versus the cables, the long cables, if a child steps on it, he'll end up with 6 to 8 inches in there, while his buddy or something is sticking his whole body through there.
But that's a good question, if it could be qualified as fencing. Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back and look. I can't lay my hands on it right at the moment, but I gotta go back and look at the fence ordinance itself. And see exactly what it says. I know we tried to, the city tried to amend the fence ordinance a few years ago. And nothing ever came of it. But,
Do they have to have a permit to put that hog fencing on their deck?
Yes.
Okay, so we can
to
control that.
do anything on your deck, any kind
Yeah.
of rail, you've got to have a permit.
Okay. These are all great
Okay.
suggestions. What do y'all think about solar
In what way?
as to use on roofs? Not solar fields, but solar on roofs.
Currently 26% tax credit, so.
I saw that.
I would support it.
Yeah,
If I'm getting 26% tax.
of course, not everybody.
Not to
can do it.
mention a lower electric bill.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not everybody can do it, depending on where your roof looks.
I think we start having a lot of requests from the tree, people start putting in, because most of them are so shady that it wouldn't. be
Right,
Wouldn't it, my house?
The solar panel is flush with the roof. I don't see a reason to object to it. I mean, it's coming, its time has come.
Going up in community there.
becoming economic, it's socially probably even a good idea, so. but
I'd
on the
like
other
to
hand,
put it on the new city hall.
If
Yeah.
you wanted to erect solar panel farm out here on the parking lot, it would jump to that.
I would too.
So, freestanding ones, maybe that's what we could look at, but I think the ones on roofs,
I think there's a place where they've actually lost in court. Banning solar panels, you might want to look into that.
I think it'd be difficult to ban.
Yeah, I don't think we really want it.
What did you say?
I think it'd be difficult to ban
Yeah.
solar panels with residences, it wouldn't be possible, I think.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to allow on residences, but I think if you could write the ordinance so that there are no freestanding solar farms, get it, so that we don't take a lot and somebody puts a bunch of solar on it.
Right,
Just for residents, either for hot water or for just the electricity in it.
what about a panel in the yard?
No,
Okay,
Well,
Again,
but
you
what if you've got somebody that their roof is not oriented to handle, you know.
We will have a lot of-
You need them facing south, and if your roof is facing east and west, and the gable is facing south, you don't tell that person they can't have solar.
Before you do it, check it
Yeah.
out.
Okay, I don't, I mean, my roof's facing south, I just don't think it's very fair that it depending on the.
We'll all
If
go
you
into
could
it.
have a- if that person could have a freestanding. plan.
Yeah.
You know, or are you gonna get them funky, I'm putting it on the east facing roof and I'm standing it up to the facing south. You know, you can get a more funky looking than a freestanding one in the yard. Trying to, I mean, I would advocate just having a limit on the square footage of solar panels based on the side of the house or something like that. So nobody feels, so nobody having a solar panel. But you're not telling Holly if her roof's not facing south, you can't have one, and Jim, yours is, you can't.
The American Clean Energy and Security Act would make it illegal to restrict the installation of solar panels, HOA rules included.
There you go.
Yeah, I think.
It's federal law, but basically override any HOA rules and private contracts that prohibit solar panels. And there are exceptions, so you have to.
Is there anybody had solar panels? I've had.
It's not come up, we're just,
We're just
Well,
thinking
yeah,
of
I
it.
need a pool and they are outstanding, they need a pool because it's just self-circulating, there's no motor involved.
Yeah.
And I've had solar for hot water heat, and I wouldn't ever do that again, because I had it repaired multiple times. But it was all in the same house, but for certain functions, solar is pretty simple. The panel is and, you know, but I would hope that our ordinance would say it's gotta be somebody certified, licensed, you know, so that we get correct installation.
I would suspect that the state of Georgia requires a licensed electrician to do it. I don't know that for a fact.
Find the houses that actually sell their power. They make more power than they have an issue with the contractor to do the energy to sell it.
Yeah.
And they make thousands a year.
Well, that's so in Georgia too. Georgia Power has to buy it back.
Yeah,
Well, you know, what happens is your meter will actually run in reverse.
Wasn't that cool?
It goes back to the, so when you're generating more power, it goes back into the grid, and when you need more, you take it out and it all washes.
my right point would be if we've got to live with solar, because legally I think we do, then we ought to define it
Yeah,
in a way that's acceptable for this community.
that's why we're bringing it up. Thank you.
To have your entire front yard covered with solar panels might be.
It might be a little,
Yeah, my south facing roof is completely wooded. And I would have, if I was gonna put up a solar panel, I would have to go right smack in my front yard. I don't think I wanted to see that.
I don't think your neighbors want that either.
I don't care about my neighbors.
So again,
He is my neighbor. All right, anything else in reference to building? All right, I don't think we're going to achieve anything here today, but we
This is
we look forward to getting some documents from a couple of you gentlemen and.
all right,
things that we
Helms
can
here
review.
Country Club and Wingate
Wingate at Dillard,
at Dillard.
and it will be online there,
Okay.
there's so. And
I'm meeting with-
Sweetgrass is
And
also
Sweetgrass, okay.
online now. We may have a problem getting into Sweetgrass, you may have to be a member to get their architectural guidelines. But you just stacking things up, highlight what you like about them, and then.
Always good to get other people.
Well, you're a unique thing. You're a city and you're like a city. So it's
What was the
Just a-
solar law name again?
American Clean Energy and Security Act.
American Clean Energy and Security Act.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I haven't read it. I'm just saying, I did that while we're sitting here.
Okay,
And then there's solar panel zoning and ordinances to salt law. There's stuff in here that guides you on how to do your ordinances.
okay, great.
Good.
Great.
All right. That's all we're gonna do about this. We've passed out some documents to panel here. A couple of things that we've given you. One is the city of Clayton's short-term rental ordinance. As to how they're dealing with it. They are. The fact is, if you're running a short-term rental operation in a house that you own, you are operating a business. As such, that business should be licensed. It should be subject to certain regulations, and that's what we're trying to address here. It's short-term rentals are taxed in the state of Georgia. So we want to incorporate that tax law within the short-term rental ordinance. Well, that's what we're going to start looking at next month. We're not doing it now. We passed out the example of an ordinance to the council here. So they've got something to review. So when we come back next month, we'll be able to talk more specifically about it. The other thing I passed out was Sky Valley's nuisance ordinance, which I think ties in with the rental. And in my own estimation, has some flaws. I will do my own move here. Too much paper. Well, there it is. Okay, as far as the nuisance goes. The part of the ordinance that I passed out deals with what the city of Sky Valley considers a nuisance. Which doesn't include some things. It also talks about how we address nuisances. And, you know, if you've got a problem, Vicky, you had a problem with parking on your street. Other people have problems with noise and what have you. Our ordinance doesn't give the city the ability to do any kind of immediate remediation. And we can't, it doesn't address sending the police department over there and shutting down a noisy party. It does address having to go through court and so on and so forth, and that doesn't get the job done as far as I'm concerned. So that's one of the things I want to look at.
Don, have you had a chance to look at it yet?
I looked at it briefly, but I don't have any real detail
Okay.
comment about it.
You get the one with red notes.
I do.
That's the one I was looking at. Give me that. I'll trade it because those are the notes I made to myself.
Seem to remember that it requires, issuing some sort of a requirement to appear in court.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then they talk about it there. So that's what you mean by no immediate.
There's no stop of accessibility by the police department?
No, not in here is.
It's not by the nuisance ordinance, and maybe something.
That being said, there could be something like regarding parking. Parking is not addressed, and I've made a number on item number 14 is to define, parking or blocking public roadways or right of way. Should be in here. It's not.
Now, the police will come and ask them to move the cars so that.
That becomes
fire
a safety
trucks-
issue.
Yeah, fire trucks and so forth. If they're-
That's kind of my issue. At least 3 times they blocked the stop sign there, so if you're coming down that hill, you don't see the.
Don't even see the stop sign.
Yeah.
And the second thing is a fire truck can't get through there and take it from somebody that's had a fire,
Yeah.
Yeah,
And we hope you don't have.
I know. But that's happened at least 3 to 4 times. I mean, you put 10 cars in one parking lot and one parking space, and then they park on the street.
Yeah.
Yeah. that needs to be
And,
addressed,
and that kind of thing I would like to see in a rental ordinance,
right?
that you can't rent to so many people that you can't contain all the cars on the property.
Well, and they're putting 16 people between that house, which is,
One of the things we want to address. Another thing in the rental ordinance, there's a section of it that defines 9 items which are considered loud, disturbing, unnecessary noises. It gets down to item number 7, the shouting, crying of peddlers, vendors, residents, which disturbs the peace and quiet of the residential area. How about guests and tenants? Probably should be added. Huh?
must have been college students, probably about 20 were there. I think supposed to have 16, probably about 20 on the back porch playing pong. Started at 3:30, then quit till 2. You know, my children are on, my grandchildren are on the front porch and profanity everywhere. If I can't call Sky Valley Police, I don't know what to do, you know.
Exactly.
I have a problem with not being able, I don't like calling 911. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, I don't want to, because I don't want to call 911 and say, they're parked on, I don't want to call them and say, you know, they're making noise. I would love to have a way I could call the police and just say, if you come over and do a well check, just not go over and say, hey, where's Sky Valley Police? That would be enough to settle them down.
It usually is, yeah.
And I contacted the owner first,
She
because
did.
I thought it was on here. To contact the owner first and give her a chance to take care
Right. Well, and that's
And
part of what we would want to include in a rental ordinance is that any house that's being rented needs to have somebody local that we can contact, who is responsible for what's going on in that house.
of. We don't know who, you know, I don't.
Exactly. But
Right.
the city, when they issue an occupational license, should have that information.
Can we back up just a minute? Sure. You're making an assumption that you're allowing short-term rentals. I think we need to have a discussion. That's what I have seen in multiple communities, people have that discussion, and then limited short-term rentals. If you do that, and you have a minimum 7-day or 14-day or 30-day, whatever you come up, you eliminate 80% of problems. Most of the problems with
You
short-term
can't do that in Georgia,
Okay, and not at all.
not at all. Now, when you're talking condominiums or something like that, again, they have those documents in advance, you can do it, but.
What's the Georgia law say?
It's a use of right to be able to rent your house. But anything 14 days or less, state of Georgia considers a short-term rental and they have the right to tax it.
Okay, but do the cities have the right to regulate it, even if they're entitled to rent it short term?
Regulated, not precluded.
Just rent. Well, that's a problem because regulation is flavor intensive,
Sure.
and it will be. You know, when I heard the police chief yesterday, it's pretty obvious to me that a big part of their time now is dealing with the lack of regulation.
Yeah.
So glad we're doing this.
Now, while we're talking about this, let me just preface this. This is not a rental order. This is Sky Valley's public nuisance order. So whatever we do here is going to apply to the residents as well as it does to guests and tenants. So I would caution that, you know, if you have a habit of parking out on the right of way, that would be precluded in this ordinance. Here's another issue.
Just for big parties.
I'm just saying.
You trying to block free off that.
Yeah.
You get a permit.
We're
to do
doing,
that.
we had a big party up on, over on LaBelle a couple months ago. They did it right. They knew they were gonna have a lot of guests. They had people parking down at the club or at the church. And they shoveled them up there. So the streets were clear. Erection, excavation, demolition, alteration, or repair of any building structure in the vicinity of residential dwellings between the hours of 10 PM and 7 AM. I think 10 PM is a little late. You shouldn't be subjected to 9 o'clock or 9:30 at night to construction going on next to your house. And construction, the loud noises regarding, power equipment and so forth, I think should include landscaping equipment. Should you have to listen to a chainsaw going on, next door? Again, the shouting and crying of vendors should include tenants and guests. Landscaping equipment should be included. So, there's a number of things that we can address here. Not the least of which is giving some sort of immediate satisfaction to people that are experiencing problems next door. So,
There's a lot of little things too that, and I don't know how in the world, you can't do every little thing, I understand that, but it's got to be some kind of, like, they threw a whole cooler of cans in his yard. Whole cooler of cans, And the dogs are going over there and going in his yard, and you know, those are small, tiny things, and I know we can't regulate every little thing, but I mean, Sky Valley's changing because the RVO, you just don't have the privacy that you have. I mean, it's not as, and here's my problem, I don't have to call 911. We've got set up through something through the city where I could call, like, I mean, I know Dave's gone, but I could pick up phones today, you know, come over here and look what they do, and he could go over there and address it. I mean, he would have.
There is a non-emergent number that you can call.
Is
Is there 782 and 47s?
782 47. But
And
that still goes to Raven County though, right?
Yeah, but it's a non-emergent, it's not gonna tell us the
Yeah.
911 system, but then they dispatch the police officers. We just
Yeah.
need every call to be on there.
Yeah, I just kind of like it when I pay my taxes, I like to call the police office and say, Ron, would you mind coming over? Just, I would like that, instead of having to call for non-emergency.
Well, and I think you did the right thing before.
I hear you say.
Yeah.
You know, could you come by here, because we're having a problem right here. And I
You
don't
did the right thing the first time when you called me.
think, right, it's really good.
Here's the quote we might want to hear.
They will answer 911 because they're in the same
Yeah,
one.
I just wish I could call, it's so convenient, if I could just call Ron and say, Ron, you mind riding over here to see, you know, what's going on, but if you don't have an ordinance, kids, I don't guess there's anything you can do, right, is that what you're kind of telling us?
Well, we have a nuisance ordinance, but we need to tweak it.
Yeah.
David.
Whatever the course of action taken by the city of regulating short-term rental, it is vital that the city attorney is involved because one wrong step could lead to prolonged litigation. It is also important to remember that there are many interested parties when it comes to short-term rental, including the property owner, the management company, neighbors, hotels, licensed bed and breakfasts, and many others. So they've had a lot of litigation in Georgia over this. So just be careful, whatever you do, and get that.
Well, we would never do anything that didn't go past the attorney anyhow, so. But, you know, the point is that we need some regulation. That we don't currently have as far as the short-term rentals.
Vicky, I want to address your concern, and I've heard it numerous times that the citizens would like to directly call our police officers. The chief is got the police department involved with 911 in order to keep a record of the calls. That's what this is all about. But I hear what you're saying, and maybe we can work
And I
something
know
out.
that you've got a personal phone, I know everybody just say, look, just come by.
Yeah.
But you know. another thing-
Well, as you can well imagine, you know, the police don't want everybody in Sky Valley to have their personal.
No, I get that. I'm just saying, I get that. If you just, you know, please, I think they just not that, I'm not aware. It's kind of an emergency, you know what I'm saying, but it is something that should be addressed. I mean, so when you're. And
Yeah,
everything in there, you're, I'm not gonna have to clean it up.
Right.
And there are already ordinances regarding trashing your neighbor's properties.
It's so much smell back there, by the way.
That's part of it.
Just going.
It does, you know, part of the whole idea of regulating these is that we feel like there needs to be an inspection of the property prior to issuing an occupational license to allow the rent.
physical.
Part of that inspection is going to address the fact that if they've overbuilt the property for the septic system that they've got, then they won't be issued the license. Yeah, there are other things. They've got to have appropriate fire safety equipment, fire extinguisher, whatever. They're operating under the same premise as a hotel. They need a fire evacuation plan. They need fire extinguishers,
Labeling the exit door.
labeling the exit doors. They need to.
And all that's in the Clayton ordinance, the way it's written down. So we've got a good.
Mhm.
They've got a good template.
Now, people that have already built with maybe grandfather animals, they have to follow this.
Now, these aren't things that require you to rebuild the property. It's just, you know, adding.
Like if you don't have a septic for bedroom.
Well,
you
you
go
know,
back.
you were given a building permit for a specific
No.
number of bedrooms. And that's,
And
that's how they size the required septic system.
So if you went from a
It's based on
3-2
bedrooms,
to
so-
a 5.
You went to, you know, it doesn't matter how many bathrooms, it's bedrooms that they're counting. Because they presume that if you've only got one bedroom, you're still not gonna occupy all 4 bathrooms simultaneously. But, yeah, if you've added bedrooms to exceed the capacity of your septic system, it's a violation of the health department code. And it shouldn't be issued a permit. And in fact, they shouldn't have been allowed to, if they did any renovations in the house with building permits. You know, that should have been addressed at that time. You know,
They
they're
can't
just,
go back.
well, you can go back if they've,
If they
if
apply for a business
if they
license.
violated. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Requirement.
Well. So there's all, you know, I think the key there is the inspection. And, you know, I recognize,
You're starting to get on it, and I do appreciate it.
Is there a fee in planning?
yes,
For
and I think there needs to
$100
be,
business fee?
It's $150 for the first business license and then $125 there each year after that.
Okay, and a requirement to collect the tourist development tax?
That's the
That's-
Georgia law, the
Georgia
VR,
law
the
requires. that.
VRBs and those companies collect it now, not the owners.
And part of that application for the license, gonna tell the city, this is the person responsible for collecting that tax
Okay.
and submitting that.
And the regulation will establish maximum capacity in terms of license that.
Well, maximum capacity is gonna be based on a number of things, the allowable parking on site, the number of bedrooms allowed legally, and so forth.
But that would then tie back, as Vicky has said, to the nuisance ordinance to make sure that our nuisance ordinance has an enforceable section in it. That somebody gets a license for 4 and they've got 12 in there, that somebody can go out and have the authority, hopefully law enforcement, say. People need to get out.
And the authority in that case would be if you're consistently over leasing, you lose your license.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
But what happens the night of, if we parallel our nuisance ordinance with the license standard? Would it be?
I wouldn't expect.
By law enforcement at that time?
Yeah, if you've got somebody having a wild party, I don't expect the police to go out there and break up the party and count the number of people that are living in whatever bed. I think that's over and above what they should be doing. But it gives you something to go back on after the fact.
And then it doesn't accomplish.
Well, you know, at that point,
You get the owner.
you're talking about public nuisance breaking up a loud party or something of that nature.
That's all.
So that, you know, that can be done. But as we're going in and figuring out who's violating what building ordinance or something.
How long has the Clayton ordinance been in place? Did they finalize it?
Oh, they've been using it for several years, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what, City Council told me, that they've been using it for several years.
It says revised form 11/23/21.
Well, there,
I'm assuming last November is when they revised that.
yeah, 41.
Yeah, so
Yeah, we
again, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We don't have to.
No.
So we're gonna start with something and go from there, make sure it works for Sky Valley. Anybody else have anything?
I appreciate y'all
Yeah.
finally getting on it, I really do. I mean, not that finally, but I don't think everybody came to y'all and told you. If you
Well-
can't fix what you don't know.
As you well know, this problem has gotten progressively worse over the last couple of years.
I was actually thrilled that we kind of were getting some nice places for doctors to stay.
Yeah,
And I thought it would help visit here, but it's not what I expected, it's not, it's getting where,
well, it's good and it's bad. It's good and it's bad.
yeah.
Yeah,
They say.
we want to make it better.
Well, I think simple restrictions might put a lot of, a lot of this.
Okay, that's what's coming up. If nobody has anything else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Do you want to set a date for the next meeting?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
You like my?
Thank y'all for coming. Thank y'all for coming.
Our usual meeting time is the third Wednesday of the month, which would make it October 19th.
Yes,
Anybody
Bill, yes, I can do it. No, I can't. Yeah, but the others in the job can't.
Other than the mayor, is everyone else available on the 19th of October?
Should be good.
Okay. Then let's set that date, October 19th.
Well, if it's
10 a.m.
on Zoom, I can clock in. How about that? October the
Well,
19th.
it's Mr. Owl over there.
Mr. Al works. Thank y'all for coming. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
At 10 o'clock, October 19th. Okay. Mr. Rice, thank you for coming. Oh.
I didn't have to. Thank you for coming.
But do come back.
All right, now I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, everyone.
Have we got some work to do?
Yeah, can we have a work? We have a work session on the-
I don't know if I just-
No.